The one thing that I want parents to understand, and maybe they think they do, is that the church is important. But more than just the church is important, as in they need to go to church, but it's that the church is essential. If the kids see that the only time I go to church or my parents care about church is to take me there and then leave me there and then pick me up later, that also sends indirectly an understanding to the kids as to how important church really is. If you want a thriving youth ministry, if you want kids to really be impacted by the ministry of a youth pastor, you don't want pastoral turnover. You don't want joyless pastors. You don't want pastors that are just there barely. My name is Terrance Shay. I'm the family pastor at First Chinese Baptist Church of Walnuts right here in Southern California.
What is one key thing parents should understand about the mental health struggles of today's teenagers?
I mean, it's very real for the teenagers. Maybe a lot of times when parents are going through it, it wasn't as traumatic in a sense or as serious or as centered as it is how they thought about life or themselves. But nowadays, it's very sensitive for a lot of our teenagers. I think the social media exposure, I think the ways in which they're looking horizontally at how people think of them, how they're rated, how people consider them amongst their friendship groups and hierarchies. It's just a very sensitive thing. And so people are always looking inwardly now to see if they're okay, but there's not always a center as to where they find that absolute foundation in. So it always comes back to affect them and how they feel about themselves and how they're struggling and whether they're okay compared to other people. It's a pretty serious situation, I think, for our students today.
What is one thing you wish parents understood about the role of the church in their teenagers?
The one thing that I want parents to understand, and maybe they think they do, is that the church is important. But more than just the church is important, as in they need to go to church, but it's that the church is essential. And so for their kids to not only know Jesus, but to actually love Jesus and follow Jesus, they need to be a part of the local church. Which means that it can't be where, in terms of how the culture of the home is, that they just try to squeeze church in, or they try to wrap church around sports or recitals or, practices. It has to be where the church is primary in its place, in its weekly rhythm. And then the parents then prioritize around that. That also means that a lot of times it's more than just a drop off then for the parents, because the kids see that. If the kids see that the only time I go to church or my parents care about church is to take me there and then leave me there and then pick me up later so that they could do their own thing, that also sends indirectly an understanding to the kids as to how important church really is. So it's important for the parents then to take their rightful place in serving and growing and receiving and also being able to be a part of the church life as a family. So it's really to mean what you say and to say that you can't be a Christian, you can't thrive, you can't experience God and have his joy without the local church.
What is one thing you wish church leaders knew about the challenges youth pastors face?
It's hard being a youth pastor. I mean, forget about just even like the title and the feeling of you're at the bottom of the totem pole, but like the pay scale, the responsibilities. It's kind of like when no one else is going to do it, you're going to ask your youth pastor to do it sometimes. So just for them to know that it's hard, so that what they need is encouragement. Because here's the thing, if you want a thriving youth ministry, if you want kids to really be impacted by the ministry of a youth pastor, you don't want pastoral turnover. You don't want joyless pastors. You don't want pastors that are just there barely making it, barely surviving, but yet still trying to point their kids to Jesus, but joylessly. You want healthy youth pastors. You want pastors that are walking with the Lord so that they're able to walk with your kids. You also want youth pastors that have their needs provided for so that they don't have to have the earthly cares and the struggles and the hard decisions they have to make with their families in order just to be faithful to ministry. And so just to encourage the youth pastors would be a wonderful way, but to do it tangibly, to do it regularly, to do it knowing that you're really reaching down to them, but you're lifting them up rather than expecting them only to answer up to you. You're actually bringing them up to where you are so that they could thrive as well.
And what are some practical ways for churches or church leaders, in your opinion?
Well, I think, first of all, it's really thinking about their family situation, their responsibilities, their kids, their schedules. Can they or should they do every single thing that maybe is outside of youth ministry? A lot of times there aren't very clear boundaries. And really the youth pastor feels like, oh, I need to pick up the slack on everything just because my senior pastor told me so. A lot of times, that I think cultural aspect of respect and honor would prompt them to do the extra things and to walk the extra mile, but that may or may not, be good and sustainable for them. So that's one, just being mindful of their schedules, because then somebody in a supervising role has that responsibility, to also be a good steward of that for them. The second really would be advocating for them in terms of like whether it's like pay, whether it's like pushing them through ordination if that's something that's meaningful. However, it is that the lead pastor, senior pastor, is able to again bring them up to where they have a higher place of standing and also a more security, more stability. All those things free them up to be able to then lead and serve and shepherd well without as much care and concern, without as much anxiety, and just letting the Lord's provision be something that works through you.
Sola Network exists to influence the emerging generation of Asian Americans and those who lead them with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Find our articles, book reviews, podcasts, and more at sola.network. If you would like to partner with Sola Network through collaboration, networking, volunteering, or giving, please contact us through the website.